What's up, Multiverse? Dr. Dave here. Welcome to the Geek Lounge. So we are a week removed from MCM Comic Con London, and it is time to check out my signed Funko Pop Haul. I don't know if you guys watched the video from this past Tuesday, but in it I explained how I was away. I was looking after my sister's dog, so I literally only got back yesterday. That's why the signed haul is only happening a week after the con. And if you haven't watched the video from this past Tuesday, there is a link to it. We did some Funko Pop hunting. We kind of walked around the con in general, saw some really cool pieces, especially some of those pure art statues. Man, they were beautiful. But yeah, let's now get into my signed Funko Pop haul. Right then, so we had 4 voice actors from Avatar: The Last Airbender, still to this day my favourite American animation of all time. It's such an amazing show. If you've never seen it, do go and check it out. There's so many great themes in the show, and the fact it's like made for kids as well as adults, you know, it's just very good. As I said, make sure you go and check it out. So yeah, 4 voice actors in the house. I met 3 of them. The one I didn't meet was James C or Sai. Apologies if I mispronounce his surname there, who was the Cabbage Man. Unfortunately, I don't have the, or Cabbage Merchant. I don't actually have the Cabbage Merchant Funko Pop. They did make one. It was a New York Comic Con exclusive from 2019, I want to say. I can't entirely remember off the top of my head, but yeah, don't own that one, so unfortunately I couldn't get that signed. I will also quickly say that Jack DeSena, who voiced Sokka, was supposed to be there, but he had to cancel. And to be fair, he cancelled roughly like 3 to 4 weeks before, so it wasn't like a last minute cancellation or anything. But yeah, we did get to meet Zach Tyler Eisen, who was the voice of Aang from the hit show. Zach was really cool. He was the first guest I met on the Friday. Yeah, super cool, super talkative. He actually mentioned that he'd only started doing cons in the last kind of year, last kind of 12 to 18 months, which I was a little bit surprised about. I thought he'd been doing them for years. Pretty sure I've seen a lot of signed Angs, you know, out there in the wild, but yeah, that's what he said. Not been doing cons for too long, but yeah, was happy to talk about it. You know, as I said, super nice guy. I decided to get 2 signs, so we got this one, Aang on the air scooter, the Hot Topic exclusive, and I went with a quote, "Will you go penguin sledding with me?" which was his first, well, maybe not necessarily his exact first signs. I'm pretty sure he says something to Katara along the lines of, like, "Come closer," and like after they've pulled him out the ice, and then he says, "Will you go penguin sledding with me?" I did go with a colour scheme of the light blue, the orange, and the yellow to kind of match Aang's outfit. And one thing I will say, guys, you know, a lot of people do ask the question about paint pens and stuff like this, because you will see that the signature, which is in the orange, is not as what's the word we're looking for? It's like not as full, if that makes sense. So you can like really see the quote here in blue, you can see the name of Aang here in yellow, but yeah, the orange, it just kind of looks like a bit of a translucent orange pen, right? Essentially, that's what happens when you don't prep your paint pens. He actually had an orange, but it wasn't working. I pulled mine out, but I hadn't really prepped it, and he did a little bit of prep work, but not enough. And that's not his fault, to be honest. You know, these guests can't spend their time dabbing these pens to make sure the ink comes out. Maybe they can if they've not got a super long line, but yeah, I was like first or second in queue to see Zach, so the queue had built up quite a bit by that point when he did come out. So I get it, it's maybe a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. And the other one I got signed, guys, is the uber rare one, the rarest piece, the most expensive piece in my collection, the Fire Nation Aang NFT release. I know he had signed one of these before because I'd seen it on eBay or somewhere, someone was showing it off, but I didn't ask him how many he'd signed, but he was like, "Oh man, yeah," and he knew like how rare it was. He asked me if I managed to get it during that like original, pardon me, NFT drop. I said no, I did pay for it, but got it for a good price. And yeah, he said he's always happy to like come across these when he finds them. I went with the quote, "Anyone's capable of great good and great evil." And if you guys can also see down here, we got it signed Kuzan with Aang in the brackets. That of course is his like code name, should we say, when they're sort of infiltrating, can't even talk today, the Fire Nation. Yeah, I'm happy with how this one turned out. Went with those Fire Nation colors of yellow and red. Yeah, again, as I said, just to repeat myself, Zach, super cool dude. I did mention to him that I'd read, and I said, I don't believe everything I read, that you're now kind of working behind the scenes and stuff. And he said, yeah, he's kind of doing like cinematography and photography. And then I sort of asked him about, you know, what was the reason you didn't continue with voice acting. And he just said, yeah, you know, he wanted to have somewhat of a regular childhood, but he was also like, he was 12, 13 at the time. He knew he like wanted to go to college and get a degree and things like that. But he mentioned like the idea was that he would one day return to voice acting, and that just hasn't happened yet. And there was a lot of emphasis on the yet. So we also got to meet Michaela Murphy, who is also known as Jessie Flower. At least she was back when she did the role of Toph, who happens to be my favourite character, so it was super cool to meet her. Love Toph, how sassy she is, even though she's like, what's supposed to be 11 years old, I think. She's just got this kind of wiseness, but also this kind of sarcastic and sassiness to her. I absolutely love the character. And Michaela, I feel, has got like a little bit of that in her as well, which is quite funny. She kind of came dressed a little bit as Toph as well. She kind of had the headband, and she was kind of like rocking the green and the yellows, so that was pretty cool. Very, very chatty, very, very talkative. In the panel as well, we did actually go to the panel on the Sunday, which was very funny, very entertaining. Like, her and Zach are kind of like younger. They're like a bit younger than me. I think they're kind of early 30s, whereas like Jenny and James, the other two Avatar guests, are kind of the older heads. I think they're now in their 50s, if I'm not mistaken. So they maybe weren't as chatty, but yeah, Michaela and Zach for sure chatty, but also happy to be there. She seemed to love playing Toph. She got like so many cool lines. The one I went with, if you guys can see it here, was, you've seen nothing once, you've seen it 1,000 times. My brother did point out, actually, because it's the written or like the number 1,000, it kind of reads, you know, you've seen nothing once, you've seen it 1,000 times, which I guess technically is correct, right? But I actually watched the closed captions, is it, I think, on Netflix to kind of get it, and that's how they had written it out, and she kind of wrote it here anyway, so I know what it means. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't bother me too much. In fact, my Zuko Pop that I got signed, I actually did have the wrong word. I think I went with I don't want any calming tea, but I think the quote's actually, I don't need any calming tea, but I kind of know it is what it is, right? Should have done my homework a bit more, but yeah, went with the green and the yellows, so happy with that. And yeah, as I said, Michaela, very cool, you know, chatty, will chat to everyone. She was kind of not sitting behind the desk either, she was kind of standing in front. You know, a lot of those guests who do that are kind of like really, really interactive. So yeah, it was a pleasure to meet her and a pleasure to get the Toph Funko Pop signed. Likewise, it was also a pleasure to meet Jenny Kwan, who voiced Suki, as I mentioned a few seconds ago. She wasn't as chatty, but she was still like very pleasant, very nice. Yeah, just not as chatty and talkative as the likes of Zach and Michaela. But Suki was another character I really liked. I like badass women characters, or female characters, you know. It's like a cool, it just adds something a bit different, you know. There's a dynamic to it, especially when you've got like the character of Sokka who plays off of it. And I think this quote is kind of fitting in terms of maybe what I'm trying to get across, right? Where she says, I am a warrior, but I'm a girl too. I think it's like a really fitting quote for her, because, you know, Sokka goes through the whole thing of, you know, I need to protect you because you're a girl, but you're a warrior, you're kind of a badass as well, right? So I think it was quite a fitting quote. I did originally have the idea to have the one when she first meets him. I think this is like episode 4, isn't it, or something like that. And she says, just a girl, huh? The Unagi's going to eat well tonight. Something along those lines anyway. But it was quite long, and I thought, yeah, I'd looked at previous pops that Jenny had signed, and I was like, her handwriting's fairly biggish, so maybe it won't fit on there. But yeah, this was one of my favourite quotes of hers too. As you guys can see, well, I don't know, maybe it's coming out not too bad here on the camera, but I've always found white paint pens to be temperamental, just in my opinion. Like, I've got ones that look amazing, just looking up, you guys won't see on camera, but like my Ahsoka, my Cal Kestis, Moff Gideon, Joel from The Last of Us, like the white pen looks really, really good, but I've had others where it's not come out so great. My Dustin was signed with the exact same pen as Moff Gideon, and yeah, it just looks a bit more fadey. I guess it does come with the like prep work as well, but we kind of prepped this one quite well, and even Jenny was kind of dabbing it a lot more. But yeah, that's just kind of how it came out, and that paint pen's not super duper old, so yeah, it could have been a lot more vibrant than this, but if you catch it in the light, you can still see it. And then I went with the orange for the name and the auto. I mean, I couldn't really kind of match this color. I don't even know what it is, because it's not really red, but it's not like this bright orange either. But yeah, I'm still happy with it. I think it came out really well. And yeah, I'm really happy to kind of continue growing the signed Avatar collection. Next then, I've got 2 pops from the same guest. First up, we have Mirio Togatar from My Hero Academia, signed by Rico. It's either Fajardo or Fajardo. I actually don't really know how you pronounce his surname. I didn't ask. I mean, I just kind of called him Rico when I met him. Lovely guy though, incredibly chatty. I feel he had to be the most chattiest at the con this whole weekend, or last weekend I should say. We got to him, like his queue didn't seem too bad, so we were like, oh, let me join it now, let's get him out the way. Say that as if it sounds horrible, right? Get him out the way. But I feel there's like 6 or 7 people in front of us, but so there was one person in front of me, and then there was a family in front of that person, but they then took about, no joke guys, 20 plus minutes with Rico. I think they got like 6 or 7 things signed, and he was just like chatting to them non-stop. And that was the thing, while he was chatting, he wasn't doing any of the signings or anything, so it took a long time. I could see his like manager or his handler or agent, whatever she was, kind of keep looking up, and she didn't rush him or anything, but it was like, okay, yeah, the line's kind of growing a bit now. And once we did finally get to him, he did apologize, saying, look, I'm so like sorry for the wait, and it's always like no problem. I wasn't getting tons and tons of things signed this weekend, or last weekend again, I should say, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, we got this Mirio signed. I just decided to go with that very kind of common release. There's no like intrusive stickers. Having said that though, he always kind of signs it this way. So he has his autograph at the top, he'll do a character name at the bottom, and then he will actually do the quote here on the side. So I just got turn experience into power. We went with the yellow and the red color schemes. Originally I did try and go for the blue here to kind of match the eyes and some of the suit. Like my idea was to have blue, red, and then yellow with the quote. But yeah, my blue, he was, to be fair to him, trying to prepare it. And that's the thing, he was saying, as you guys, you know, if you looked at the Yang Pop from a few moments ago, he was kind of saying, I don't really want to try and give you this kind of like just translucent blue look, like we can try and get the pen. And in the end I was like, don't worry about it, dude, let's just go with the yellow. It'll still look pretty cool on the front, and it does, right? Because the kind of box art is yellow and red. So yeah, very happy with that. Sadly I can't say the same about this one. I mean, you guys can probably barely see the auto on there, right? This one in general has left me with the kind of baddest taste of the weekend. And it's not necessarily due to like the auto and that with this pen. Like he says he often tries to sign in this, it's kind of like a purple silvery pen. So when you kind of hold it up to the light, it kind of goes silvery, and then it's kind of purple when you hold it away from the light. We do have the quote here on the side as well, Mercury Magic. Reign of Silver. But yeah, not only does it not really pop very well, once I got up to the MCM guy who was taking the money, and you know, putting in everybody's order, because it was all kind of pay at table, or he may have been no, you know what, I did this was it, actually, this is it why I was annoyed. So he was pre-book, but then there were add-ons for either like Funkos or quotes and things like that, right? So I got up to the guy and he said, what are you getting signed? I said, I've got these 2 Funko Pops, Mirio and Nozel from Black Clover. And he said, I need to grab his agent. There's something different with this pop. It's better if she explains it. And so she came, and I was like, okay, what's the deal? And she said, yeah, this pop is like super rare in the US, very hard to get hold of. So there is a premium cost to, you know, to get it signed. And I was like, seriously? Like, this pop, my friends Cult Collectibles just literally, who were like less than 50 meters away, had like 10 of these in stock. Like, this pop is not difficult to get in the UK. And she was like, well, maybe they're all over here then, that's the thing. But she said, look, we charge a premium just because it is super rare. And I was like, man, that's like massively disappointing. And I said to the MCM guy, to be honest, because what she said was, there was a guy who'd been queuing for ages yesterday, because we got him on the Saturday, and she said on the Friday there's a guy who'd been queuing, and once he was told, he actually just left the line, and he'd been queuing for ages. And she was like, no, you could still come and say hello, or you can get a signed print. And that's the thing, I don't really collect signed prints, you know what I mean? So I was like, to the MCM guy, I was like, to be honest, like this information should have been available online. It should have mentioned this, because I probably wouldn't have pre-booked this autograph knowing that there's a premium cost kind of attached to it. And he was like, yeah, like, look, if you really want to go and get a refund, you can. And I was like, yeah, but I really like this character. I really like Black Clover. It's just kind of annoying. So I did a little like bit of math in my head. And what I kind of worked out was that what they were charging for Nozel was essentially what every other guest was charging anyway for a Funko Pop and a quote, which this thing is becoming expensive to get Funko Pop signed now, guys. So most people were charging, you kind of had like a base price of maybe 40 to 50 for an auto, depending on the guest. Some were a bit more. And then you had Funko Pop normally carried either an extra 10 or 15 pound charge, and then a quote carried an extra 10 or 20. So for most of the guests to get a Funko Pop signed, you were looking at around like between 75 to 85 pounds. And I think off the top of my head, because they also charged me in US dollars, which I don't think they were supposed to. So I think this Nozel turned out to be around 83 pounds in the end. But that's the thing, the Mirio was much cheaper. So like Rico's charges were like cheaper than everyone else anyway. So that's why it was like a little bit of a bitter taste, to be honest. And yeah, essentially having to spend, I guess, an extra 23 pounds, I think it worked out to be, compared to what I paid with the Mirio. And then on top, to have it not really come out and pop so much. I mean, he did say, look, this is what I prefer to sign it in, but you can choose the colors. Maybe I should have just gone with either my silver or my white in the end. But to be honest, it looks a little bit better in person. It's not really showing up so great here on the camera. But yeah, gotta say, overall, that's a bit of a disappointment, you know, especially where it's like, okay, if that's the issue in the US, you're not in the US, you're in the UK. And yeah, this Nozel is regularly available over here, very, very easy to get hold of. So yeah, as I said, that was quite a disappointment. And likewise, meeting Nolan North was also somewhat of a disappointment. Not like anything major, to be honest. And not that Rico was horrible. He was like a super nice dude. I forgot to mention it was his birthday as well. Just very happy, very chatty. It's just that whole that whole premium price for a pop that's not rare over here and being charged essentially something that's US specific is just annoying. But anyway, we're on to Nolan North here now. Nathan Drake from Uncharted. Nolan was lovely, he was really nice, but the thing is, we went to his queue, he was supposed to be back at 1:30, and we got to his queue at 1:25. There was literally one person ahead of us, a young guy with his mum, and yeah, he didn't turn up for like 40 odd minutes. And then they were going to have photos as well as the dual photo ops, because they also had, the names escape me, it's Sully and Elena. The like all three voice actors were in attendance at MCM last weekend, and yeah, they were therefore going to have like 20 odd minutes left before they then had to go and do single and that dual photo ops. So by the time Nolan did arrive, he was just really rushed, and he wasn't really kind of talking and so much. And even the paint pen kind of came out a little bit streaky, just used his own. But you know what, he was still nice enough. We talked very briefly, because he was supposed to come to MCM a couple of years ago and he got really sick, and he mentioned that. But it's then like, as you were kind of saying goodbye, he was already moving on to the next guest and not kind of even looking at you or anything. So it's just, that's kind of annoying if you're going to come late and then, you know, be really rushed. It's one of those things. I get it. His queue, at least at that point, wasn't super duper long. And if, you know, if the guests are not going to be as busy, I get it. You're not going to sit at the table all weekend, right? But yeah, that interaction maybe could have been a little bit better, especially because I'm a big Uncharted fan, and you know, Nolan North's one of the GOATs in terms of video game voice acting. So yeah, it could have been better, but not too bad. But the final two guests were an absolute pleasure. First up, we have Jason Spizak or Spizak. I'm not 100% sure how you do pronounce his surname, so apologies for that. But he did, of course, voice excellent excellently voiced, I should say, Silco in Arcane. I mentioned earlier, Avatar: The Last Airbender, still my most favourite American animation of all time. Arcane would be a close second, to be honest, and we do, of course, have Season 2 dropping, yeah, well, literally a week today, right? 9th of November. Cannot wait. Yeah, Jason was a pleasure to meet. Someone, see, I was in, so the next guest is whose line I was in. You know, there's no surprise. I think you've probably seen it on the thumbnail. Ella Purnell, who did, of course, voice Jinx. But I was first in line for her, so someone else was, because Jason was next, like sitting next to her, and someone else was in front there, and they got supposedly the first Silco Funko Pop sign. That's at least what I could gather. He was kind of surprised to see it, which, I don't know, is a bit weird because he had separate Funko Pop pricing. Not a lot of guests did, which is annoying because you pre-book stuff and then you're asked to pay even more. I don't know why some guests can have a full pre-book, like, you know, 8x10s are this price, bigger prints are this price, Funko Pops are this price, you can add a quote for this price. Jason had all of that, but not every guest did, which is so weird. Anywho, he was definitely, like, without question, the most best dressed guest. He had this whole, like, suit going on. He looked very dapper, but yeah, very talkative. We talked a lot about Silco, about the character, how, like, this kind of great villain he is, because he's still got this, there's still like this element of like charm and charisma, and you still kind of support him a little bit, even though he's like this dastardly wicked villain, or at least I did anyway, and he kind of agreed. I did go with the quote, we'll show them all, which was his, well, it wasn't quite his final like recorded lines, but it was the kind of lines that Jinx was hearing in her head. Yeah, I just decided to go all with the red to kind of match the eye, even though now I see it, it's like probably a bit more orange, isn't it? I think the light makes it look a lot more orange than like with my own eyes. It's kind of more like an orangey red, to be honest. But yeah, very cool pop. Very happy to meet him, very happy to get it signed, as I was with the next guest. And that next guest is actually the last guest, as I mentioned already, Ella Purnell. Not going to lie to you guys, probably my new celebrity crush. I say new, like I've known her for, well, probably only about a year. I definitely saw her, was it Army of the Dead? It was a Zack Snyder movie. I definitely remember that one with Batista, but she kind of wasn't quite on my radar until Yellowjackets. I honestly thought she was American, like her American accent is that good. And then discovered she was English and born in Whitechapel, which is literally 10 minutes down the road from the Excel Centre, which is where MCM took place last weekend. But yeah, she's just so, look, I get she's an actor and she's a great one, and you know their job is essentially faking things, right? But I felt she was very genuine. As I said, I was first in the queue there. The guy, like he said, you may be one of the first people to get this Jinx Funko Pop sign. They did, of course, have the League of Legends one release a few years back, which is now quite hard to get. Things around an £80 to £100, $80 to $100 Funko Pop, but I picked these ones up, and he said you probably are one of the first to get the Jinx Arcane Funko Pop sign. I was like, I'll take that flex, but I didn't mention any of this to Ella, but yeah, she was just so nice, so sweet. It's those, like, she has a lovely smile. It's the doe eyes, those big doe eyes that I think kind of draw me in. But we talked about several of our projects, you know, Arcane especially coming back. She said she can't wait for people to see it. You know, I mentioned that like, I'm sure you'll get a Lucy Funko Pop quite soon, and she's like, yeah, surely, right, it's such a big show. And I said, there are like U2s, and we even discussed like U2. She was she wasn't sure what they were, and I said, to be honest, some people in the queue might even have some, and they did actually. There were a couple of people who had them, but I mentioned there was like a U2's booth. Literally, it was literally like kind of behind her, or at least I'd say like 30 meters away, because they have to, of course, allow guest queuing, right? She said she may go and check it out. Whether she did, probably not, because otherwise she may have been mobbed on the com floor. And I just mentioned Yellowjackets, so I did also get Jackie signed as well. There was no there was no quotes, there was no selfies. I think some people were disappointed in that, but you know what, if she's busy and she's working, I kind of do get it. I know a lot of people do prefer to have that interaction of, you know, having hugs and having poses and things, because I imagine the photo ops were the same. But if someone's like regularly working, which she does seem to be doing, I kind of understand it, right? If you get sick, you're out of your job. At the same time, we do pay a lot of money to kind of meet these people, so I kind of get both sides, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, as I said, she just was super nice, super charming, you know, looks you in the face, smiling. Again, yes, she's an actor. Maybe she's just really good at faking it, but seemed very genuine to me. My heart melted a little bit more, as I said, my kind of new celebrity crush. Yeah, just a pleasure to meet her. Happy to get these signed. We even got a little kiss here on the Jackie one as well. Jackie was such a cool character. She mentioned in the panel, I didn't go to the panel, but I did see kind of highlights of it, that she originally signed up to Yellowjackets, like was happy to it because she didn't get, she wasn't literally wanting to sign on Pardon Me for something that was several seasons long, and she so knowing about what was going to happen to Jackie, she was quite happy, but then she kind of fell in love with Jackie and really wanted her to come back, but everything had been set in stone. So yeah, there's that. But is Yellowjackets coming back anytime soon, by the way? I don't entirely know. I haven't really been following the news there. But yeah, that was the final Funko Pop we got signed at the con, guys. And there we go, guys. That's another 10 Funko Pops added to the signed Funko Pop collection. And we're going to do it all again in a week's time, because next weekend is Comic-Con Liverpool, Monopoly's biggest con of the year. I cannot wait. Off the top of my head, I think I'm only getting 6 Funko Pops signed from 5 different guests. There's Ray Fiennes, who is one of the headline guests. I honestly wasn't going to attend Comic-Con Liverpool. I was like, there's some really cool guests there, but I'm like, you know, I'm trying to save for Japan. I've probably mentioned that 5,000 times already, haven't I? Big trip to Japan next year. And I was like, do we really need to spend money on trains, hotels? And then they announced Ray Fiennes, and I was like, man, that's a pretty, like, darn cool guest. You know, they had Helena Bonham Carter last year, and although she said she was going to do other cons, she hasn't since. And I thought, you know, Rafe could be the same. He could be one and done. So yeah, let's go. So yeah, we got Rafe with the Lord Voldemort pop, of course. I've got Jason Isaacs. Funnily enough, though, I don't own a Lucius Malfoy Funko Pop. I may pick one up and then add a third signing for him. But yeah, I've got 2 things to get signed by him. One is the Grand Inquisitor, who he voiced in Star Wars Rebels, and the other is Admiral Zhao from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So we are adding another Avatar Funko Pop, another signed Avatar Funko Pop, I should say, to the collection. Who else we got? There's Elliot Page, who I'm going to get to sign the Vanya Pop. I've got the Chase version from, yeah, it's season 1. Yeah, the like white violin one from season 1, so we'll get that signed. Of Umbrella Academy. There's Freya Allen, who I'm going to get to sign a Siri Pop from The Witcher, and Erin Moriarty from The Boys to sign my Starlight Funko Pop. You guys won't see it now. I've got a few boys. It's time to add a girl into The Boys, if that makes sense. And make sure you guys stay tuned for some Comic-Con Liverpool videos. We're definitely going to be doing some more Funko Pop hunting, checking out the con in general, and then of course the sign haul coming in about 2 weeks time, probably under, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, make sure you stay tuned for all of that and much more. What is the easiest way to stay tuned? I think you already know. Subscribe, hit click, smash that subscribe button, and enable those notifications so you don't miss out on any of that future content, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, nerds.